All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. We are live from the Win at the Blue Wire Studios in Las Vegas for Summer League. We have a very special guest today, Mrs. Liv Moods, from here at The Volume. We're going to be breaking down Victor Wembanyama's NBA debut. We're going to talk a little bit about the Damian Lillard trade saga and whether or not it's good or bad for the NBA for players and teams to engage in this type of behavior. We're going to hash out, she's a huge Nuggets fan. As you guys know, I'm a Lakers fan. We're going to talk a little bit about whether or not the Nuggets have a legitimate threat to knock them off next year. And last but not least, we're going to give our initial impressions of the NBA's midseason tournament that got unveiled today, as weird as that whole thing was. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to The Volume's YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss any show announcements. And last but not least, if for whatever reason, if you guys miss one of these videos and you can't get back over to YouTube to finish, don't forget you can find them wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. All right, let's talk some basketball. We're going to bring on the lovely Miss Liv Moods to talk some hoops. So last night, you get a little delay, right, from American Airlines, I think? Yeah. You're stuck. You get showing up at halftime. You're all excited. You called Victor, a legend, right?
Yeah, not proud of that moment. I did call him a legend because, the hype's been real, and I kind of bought into it. Obviously, he's like, in the best way possible, a freak of nature. We just have never seen somebody built like that. So I was really excited. American Airlines delayed the flight. It was a whole thing, and maybe for good reason, because that was kind of a wah-wah sort of game. Not what I was anticipating. I happened to start filming him in the right moment, missed a wide open layup. He's 90% already to the rim by the time he jumps maybe this high. So to miss a layup like that, not super great. But
it didn't get much better after you showed up. That's for sure. When you showed up at about halftime. After watching one game, are you concerned at all about Victor Wembanyama's future in the NBA?
No, to me, he just looked a little nervous. I feel like he's getting his jitterbugs out, which I feel like this is the place to do that. Summer League is the place for the young cores and the young players to just kind of, I don't want to say develop because they're already there. It's a very different game. The collegiate level to the professional level is very different. So to me, he looked nervous. I do worry about his size, not his height, but I think he needs to put on some weight. I feel like he was kind of getting manhandled a little bit. I say a little bit, but there was a moment there where I was like, there's no reason there should be a poster on Wembanyama. He is a massive guy. So I think the size thing is the only thing right now that I feel a little bit nervous about, and injury prone. I worry about those sort of things when you're built that tall, but you don't have much meat on your bones. But other than that, no, I think that his skill is still there. I think he just played a little nervous.
Yeah, the strength one is the obvious one. It's interesting because a lot of basketball players think you contest a shot, you reach up, you reach a player up top. Oh, this guy's super tall, so no one's ever going to be able to bother him. That's not how most defenders defend. A lot of times they're pushing on your waist. They're pushing on your base. That's the best way to disrupt a guy. I call it energy transfer. Anytime you take a basketball shot, there's a pathway of energy from your feet all the way to the release. And if you're really thin down low, he tried to post up Brandon Miller at one point, and he couldn't even really move him. And Brandon's pretty young and a skinny forward himself, and he was able to kind of dislodge Victor from his spot. Getting stronger is going to help. Here's the thing. Let's not he literally was playing professional basketball last year and was damn good doing it.
Yes.
So he was probably playing against higher quality competition even than what he's seeing here at Summer League.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
The people that are jumping on him, I think, are being opportunists. It's just he's an easy target at this point. But the guy's already got a pretty successful professional resume playing in France. So no, he's not going to struggle. If you give him enough reps, even at this level, he's going to succeed. But at the same time, the biggest thing that stood out to me is they were playing pickup basketball yesterday. It was it looked like me at the rec center on a Saturday morning. It's clear the side. Let me take 17 dribbles to get to my spot. It's that's not what a real basketball game looks like.
It felt better today though. I felt like the games that we saw today, OKC, the Pistons, that felt like more of a game. It felt like we had actually talked about it in the seat that there was some rhythm there. They were showing a little bit more chemistry. It looked like an actual game of basketball. Yesterday, it looked like a shoot around. So I agree with you that I don't think that. So then it kind of does make me a little bit nervous. Again, I'm not worried about Victor Wembanyama, but it does make you a little bit nervous because that's not what we're going to see when the regular season games start. That wasn't a true game, in my opinion. It looked more like a shoot around.
Chet Holmgren looked great today, but it's he's picking and popping to the top of the key and playing NBA basketball. He's protecting the rim in drop coverage and able to use his length around the basket. There were like 4 or 5 different plays where guys like went to go shoot on Chet and then stopped.
They were like, yep, nope.
There was one where the dude like got his 1-2 down and like went like he was going to go up and then stopped, and literally the entire arena started laughing because everyone couldn't believe that he got scared. It's like they were playing really coherent, normal basketball.
Yes.
That's what I was saying is they didn't really do him any favors. That wasn't the environment where you were going to see what he's great at. And even despite all of that, he still had these flashes of playmaking. He had 5 blocked shots. Like his disaster of a game still wasn't as bad as it could have been. And then sometimes when it rains, it pours in basketball. Like you have a rough first half. Suddenly, even your wide open catch and shoot shots start to miss as well.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, Victor's going to be in good shape. Were you stoked to see that Greg Popovich is coming back?
Yes, I think it's hard for me to, because the Nuggets and Spurs have always kind of been rivals, which is very weird now, not so much, but for a long time they were. So I always just like had a bad taste in my mouth, but not really, just because I was feeding into the rival. Yeah, no, I'm not. That's the thing. I felt like I kind of needed to be, but I never wanted to be. I think he's wonderful. So I think, there's a lot of teams that I feel like maybe not right this minute. I think we have this tendency in the NBA to be very impatient. Like we want to win right now. We want to be a dynasty right now. As a Nuggets fan, don't check my Twitter because I've probably said that once or twice. So I don't want to get called out for being a hypocrite, but there's like an impatience with it. And I think that in a little while, we're going to start seeing some teams that aren't your typical Lakers, Warriors, Celtics, Bucks that are at the top. I think we're going to there's a lot of young cores that are accompanied with good coaches that I'm very excited about.
Liv's riding high on her Nuggets Kool-Aid these days. You should have seen her in the Uber yesterday. She's like, Bull was saying Mike Malone's the problem as the coach. Well, Mike Malone won a championship. He must know. I know. You're right, Liv. Like the winner gets to take victory laps. This is how it works.
That's right. And I'm gonna probably take them until the next championship. So just prepare to be fed up with me because it's just not gonna change. Sorry.
Okay, let's move on to this topic. I think is so interesting, and I'm actually excited to dive into this with you. So let's start with this. How do you think the Dame situation resolves itself?
Oh, I don't know, because I actually wanted to pick your brain a little bit about this, because I'm now seeing 2 different sides of this, particularly with his agent, the situation with his agent. There's 2 ways that I think that they could be doing this. One is they're saying that Dame is going to be unhappy to all these. He's going to be an unhappy player. You don't want him. Is that a way to stiff arm everybody else because he only wants the Miami Heat? Maybe. I took it as shady because here's Damian Lillard, who has cared so much about his reputation and being this loyal, just down-to-earth guy, right? He doesn't prioritize the championship. He wants to stick to what he knows, and he wants to be loyal to the Trailblazers. But going around and saying he's going to be an unhappy player, to me, that's detrimental to your reputation, because the Trailblazers have already made it clear they have no intentions of accommodating Damian Lillard in what he wants. So to me, I kind of took it as the agents kind of shooting Dame in the foot a little bit. Like, that doesn't seem like a smart business move, but is it maybe Dame that's wanting to kind of manipulate the system and have it be, hey, the only option here is the Heat, whether you like it or not? So it is a very interesting thing to me, and I don't know how it gets resolved because I'm still trying to figure out what his intentions are, and then his agents saying what he's been saying. It's all very, very confusing to me. Very.
So I think some of the stuff in terms of his reputation is overstated. Like, do you remember the way people were talking about Anthony Davis surrounding the trade deadline when he almost went, and then he had the "That's all, folks" shirt and all this stuff? Like, everyone was just taking, like, just destroying the character of Anthony Davis during the whole thing. We speak
on characters of these athletes that we really don't know. A lot of the time, we're just taking little bits of information. So yes, absolutely, I think there's a little bit of that.
And is it the wildest thing in the world that he might want to play basketball somewhere else? And like now we look at it and it's like Anthony Davis is just a Laker now. Like, he's just a Laker.
Yeah.
And we've all moved on. And so I think the reputation stuff is a little overstated. Even on the agent front with the shenanigans with like calling teams and being like he's going to be unhappy. everyone already knew he wanted to go to the Heat. It's not exactly like it didn't require the agent to say that. The reality is, if you're not Miami and you want to trade for Dame, you're taking a risk. And that risk is sometime between when I close this deal to training camp / the trade deadline, I need to convince Dame that he can be happy here. That was going to be the case regardless of what you did.
Right.
We were talking, because I haven't even really taken a look at the cap machinations and how it would all work, but Oklahoma City is this freakishly talented team. They have 35 draft picks in the next 7 years, including 15 first-round draft picks. They have already a top 15 player in the league. They have an incredibly talented young player in Jalen Williams, other incredibly talented players in Alexei Pokashevsky and in Chet Holmgren and in Josh Giddey and Lou Dort, this amazing 3-and-D player. They are this close to being ready to make a run and have all these assets, and maybe they can go for it, but it's still... even if Dame has sent out that message, you make the trade, you call Dame, and you be like, look, man, I know you don't want to be here, but we're a damn good basketball organization.
Right. Totally.
Let us show you how we do things. Let's start winning games together. And within 6 months, you convert the guy. Now he's happy. That was always going to be the case. So I think some of this is overstated. The interesting part to me is the dynamic of the signing of the long-term contracts and then the asking for the trade. Because there's this whole thing oh, you're screwing over the fan bases, you're not being loyal, and that's such bullshit to me. Because the reality is these teams would sell these guys down the river in a heartbeat.
Right.
Marcus Smart wanted to be a Celtic for the rest of his life. Now he's in Memphis.
And I saw something that Chris Paul found out about the trade while he was on an airplane.
From a Woj tweet.
Landed, opened his phone and found out on Twitter. The organization that you have given your heart and soul to, your time and energy to, it can turn around like that. Again, it's a business. I think a lot of times fans forget that it's not only a business for the teams, but it's also a business for the player. So I do believe that Damian Lillard is trying to make the best decision for himself. But then at the same token, who's to say Miami wins a championship next year? There's a lot of teams that have a lot, like you're saying. OKC, that's a team that's this close. So to me, I started to question his loyalty for a while and felt like it was turning into stupidity really fast. Mm-hmm. And now part of me is feeling the same way about him being stubborn and basically refusing to go anywhere else, because I don't know if that's the right answer, if he's trying to win a championship. So again, I do think that there is a layer of this league that while they're trying to do what's best for them from a business perspective, we do have a little bit of spoiled brat syndrome in this league, and rightfully so in a lot of situations. You've now, his resume is long. He's been a great player for a really long time, but I don't know. I think I see a shift happening in the NBA where this contract stuff is just insanely cutthroat, and the trades and free agency. It just it's just a lot. It's a lot.
It's cutthroat both ways, but I'm okay with it. Because at the end of the day, your first obligation is to your family.
Totally.
And this is generational wealth that we're talking about. And so my thing is okay, you're a free agent. It's time to renegotiate your deal. Okay, I'm not sure I want to stay here for 5 years. I'm good. I'm committed for 1 or 2 more years.
Right.
What are you going to do? Sign a 2-year deal? And then what if I tear my ACL? Now I'm just screwed. Now right. I don't get another deal. You have to take the money.
Totally.
So it doesn't make any sense to me at all that you're expecting these guys to sign a 5-year max deal and then just they're trapped there and they have to put their hands in their pockets even if they have a bad front office and just deal with it. I think it's a lot more complicated than people think. It's definitely, there's a larger conversation to have about regional fan bases and whether or not it's bad for the league to have players constantly changing teams all the time. But when it comes strictly down to the morality of it, I never understand why people just take the side of the owner without understanding the fact that these players are making the same type of cutthroat business decisions that the owners would make.
But I think where I kind of worry, worry that's a big word, but to your point, I think that we're seeing a lot of the team hopping. At what point do you don't want that to become the entire league, right? Because there is value in Dame being loyal to a fan base like that. That's half the reason that people loved him. Like you said, his obligation first is to his family, and he's making these moves and making these decisions based off of what's best for him and his family, as he should. But how do you draw the line and kind of regulate it and keep it under control so that you don't have a league where it's just team hopping? And I mean, the memes of Kevin Durant where he hops to another team and then he's calling somebody on the phone saying, come on over. At what point do you say that is also affecting the league, maybe not in a super positive way. Because there is there needs to be kind of that middle ground, because there is a world where I think it could get a little overboard.
Yep.
The team hopping. So that's where it's just a dicey thing.
What's best for the owners and for the players isn't necessarily what's best for the league. End of story. All right, guys, we are going to move on to the victory lapper over here and her Denver Nuggets, who were the 2023 NBA champions at the expense of the team that I root for, the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes. So I think we both have the same answer here, but I still want to talk about it.
Okay.
Who should the Nuggets be concerned about as a threat to knock them off next year?
Not the Suns.
I agree with you. Not
the Suns. And you know what's so funny is Suns fans are some of the most sensitive groupings of people ever. I immediately, I'm a Suns hater when I say that I didn't super love the Bradley Beal trade, and I didn't feel like they addressed, to me, with the Suns, it was a depth and a defense issue. As great as Bradley Beal is, I don't think he fixes that problem. There's maybe two guys on the bench right now, Gordon and Watanabe, that I would be like, okay, you've got a little bit. That's still not compared to where other teams are. So the only team to me right now that the Nuggets should be worried about in any capacity is the Lakers, because I feel like the Lakers have the depth. I felt like, okay, I know they got swept, but to me, the individual games we watched did not feel like sweeps. Collectively, it was a sweep, but that was a back and forth situation. Those were tough games for the Nuggets to win. They didn't just cruise on through. I think the Lakers have depth. I think Austin Reeves is going to be way more valuable as the years go on. I think offensively, he's going to be a priority for this offense, which I think is really exciting, because I didn't expect him to show up as great as he did in the postseason. I really didn't. And I thought he was exceptional. So I love where the Lakers are. And I hate saying that because I'm a Nuggets fan, but I really think the Lakers are in a great spot.
This is the thing with the Suns that I don't think people understand too, and this is why I lean the Lakers as well. The Lakers were the most successful offense against the Nuggets by a mile. They averaged, I think, about 116 points per 100 possessions. The weakness in Denver's defense is rim protection. You have to attack the rim. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Dennis Schroeder, those guys were attacking the rim. That's why they scored so efficiently against the Nuggets. No one else even came close. The Nuggets actually pretty much locked up everybody else. You added Bradley Beal, yet another pull-up jump shooter, to a team that had two of the very best pull-up jump shooters in the league. All three of those guys, there's a redundancy to the way that they attack, and they attack in a way that feeds directly into the strength of the Nuggets defense, which is they pull Nikola Jokic out and they guard the ball handler and pick and roll, and they leave the rim largely unprotected, and you have to attack the rim against the Nuggets. The Suns are not good at attacking the rim. The Lakers are. They brought back everybody. LeBron James and Anthony Davis had a rough season as jump shooters. I expect both of them to rebound. They have opened themselves up to the flexibility of a ceiling-raising trade as well. They have 4 or 5 players with salaries between $11 million and $20 million a year next year. They can identify what their need is at the deadline, whether it's shot creation, whether it's finding a bigger athletic guard, someone like Bruce Brown, Alex Caruso. That archetype is so important.
Are you trying to hurt my feelings with that name?
I know.
God, that hurts.
I was happy for Bruce, though.
I am so happy. That's how you know, it's all love, because I selfishly wanted him to be a Denver Nugget. But it kind of goes back to the Dame thing. He's doing what's best for him, and I can't be mad about that.
How do you turn down 2 for 25?
You don't. You really don't.
I think the best the Nuggets could have given him was 3 for 36 or something like that. It just wasn't going to happen. But at the end of the day, the Lakers have the physical attributes necessary to hang with Denver. Their shortcomings were pretty much LeBron James couldn't hit a pull-up jump shot to save his life, and Anthony Davis really crumbled in that matchup. Now, I expect Anthony Davis as a competitor to rise to a different level next season, because you don't get your ass kicked like that and not spend the entire summer in the gym.
You got punched in the mouth.
Yeah, even game 4. And I mean, I'm glad you pointed that out, because the every one of those games was close. 3 of them had crunch time situations, so within 5 points with less than 5 minutes left. The one that didn't have a crunch time situation, the Lakers had an 11-point second half lead. They were right there, even though it was a sweep.
It was the most ass backwards sweep ever. It was a sweep. Yes, the Nuggets won 4 games in a row by Lakers, but it did not. Each game didn't trend the direction that we were going to get a sweep. Game 1, I never for 1 second was like, oh, Denver's got this easy. Never. I really truly thought that would go at least 6 or 7 games. So it is very interesting. And you talk about You kept saying the word attack. Yeah, there's nothing. DeAndre Ayton's name should never be put in the same sentence as attack because I am so unimpressed with him. And that was one thing that Suns fans continued to say to me. Well, we've got Bradley Beal. Don't worry, we're going to figure out the Ayton stuff. It doesn't look like that's getting figured out. I think Ayton is a Sun, and I think that's what they've got. And I just don't think that the starting five that they have is enough. I think they are a really pretty team on the outside. They're flashy. They're like an attractive team to the outside perspective. But when you really break it down, the Suns do not have what it takes to hang with the Nuggets. I don't care about Bradley Beal. I love him. I think he's great. It's not fixing their issues, though. Not even close.
I said the same thing. It's Bradley Beal objectively makes them better.
Yes.
You turned Chris Paul and Landry Shamet into Bradley Beal. The Suns are better. That's a fact.
Totally.
But the question wasn't whether or not the Suns could get a little better. It's can you win a fist fight, knockdown, drag out, just ugly playoff series against an uber physical Denver Nuggets team?
Yeah, you can't.
And they didn't improve in the physical profile of their roster, which is the specific weakness that killed them against Denver. And again, everyone's like, oh, they took them to 6. Devin Booker didn't miss for 2 games.
Right.
Like he was hitting step back threes with 2 hands in his face. Like it was just an absolutely unprecedented jump shooting performance that pushed them to that point. And so again, I'm not going to sit here and say the Suns can't beat them, but if they're going to beat them, it's going to require guys like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant being ready for a fist fight.
And I just don't see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the Lakers, like I said, I feel like they have all the pieces, and I feel like they had a lot. As interesting as it was to see their progression from the regular season to towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs, I don't even think that they were playing their best. I really don't. I think that they caught momentum a little late. So they were like, I just think that they've got a really great thing going. I love the way that they handled the postseason. Yeah, I think that's the only team right now that I'd be stressed about if I were the Denver Nuggets. And I don't even think they need to be overly stressed. I just think that's the team that's going to be their biggest competitor.
And there's beef between Mike Malone and LeBron, so that helps.
That's right. Mike Malone, shut up.
My favorite thing about the game of basketball is no matter what gets said, no matter what anybody does on social media, inevitably you're going to have to throw the ball back up again.
That's right.
That's right. Like you can have your moment, that's great, but
totally.
Like the game goes on. And they are going to throw that ball up again, and you're going to have to prove it again.
Absolutely.
And guess what? Like you had your moment, but if the Lakers beat you next year, they're going to talk shit all summer long. And that's the beauty of sports. I love that about it. Yeah.
Totally. I love it. Yeah, it's you've got to be careful what you say because it'll be fuel. It'll be fuel next season, and I think the Lakers are locked and loaded for sure.
All right, before we get out of here, the NBA releases their midseason tournaments today. The brief synopsis: it looks like they're going to be games that are taking place on Tuesdays and Saturdays or something like that. They're going to play 4 pool games against teams in their particular pool. They're going to advance. It looks like I believe 16 teams into a playoff setting, or it might even just be 8. But they're going to do some sort of a single elimination format, and the reward is just some unmentioned payout to the players. So there doesn't appear to be any real benefit to winning this tournament. All the games count towards the regular season except for the championship game, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me too, because what if you get eliminated in the first round? This whole thing is very convoluted to me. And so my question for you is, do you think the NBA needed a midseason tournament?
Hell no. No, I don't. I don't like the fact that you had to put your hands up to talk about the benefit of it is exactly why it doesn't make sense to me. I just don't think that the risk is worth the reward. We see teams all the time start the minutes restrictions and the load management, trying to save their stars for what really matters, which is the postseason or the playoffs. So I don't see the benefit. If the benefit were larger, and we kind of talked about it a little bit beforehand, that it's like this monetary prize, whatever. If you're looking at some of these contracts that these players just got dealt, I don't think that money is
moving them.
Overly enticing to them. So to me, the money thing doesn't really matter. And then we talked about, well, what if there's like a, automatic play-in spot, or it gets you a bid to the playoffs or whatever. But then you don't know how serious they're going to take the regular season if they've got this to fall back on. So I just don't see the benefit of it. I think we see these players already play a lot of games. And we see it throughout the season where you start, they start pulling guys and benching them. There's minutes restrictions just to save their bodies. You play basketball. It's a lot. I mean, I know how many times my dad came home. My dad thinks he's LeBron when he goes to the rec center. That's the first problem. Let me start there. My dad thinks he's LeBron James when he goes to the rec center. So he comes home and he's like hobbling around. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's enough. But basketball it's a lot. And they already play a really, really long season. So I don't see enough benefit to be like super on board and excited about it.
I see the angle they were trying to take. Like, shout out Ted Lasso, love that show. That's where I learned about the FA Cup and how much it matters. Like this midseason cup, but there's a certain amount of prestige attached to that cup for whatever reason. Like, and it's probably earned over a long time. And yeah, there's potential that 20 to 30 years from now, if they stick with this format, that maybe this cup takes on a certain amount of prestige that the teams want to win. But as long as that prestige isn't there, they're not going to care. No. I mean, there's a 65 game limit to make All NBA next year. Don't be surprised if you see players not reaching that because they don't care about making an All NBA team.
Right.
At the end of the day, like especially in a sport like this, where the best players determine the outcomes more than any other sport. That's the beauty of the game of basketball. That's why they have stars. Like Colin Cowherd, I was listening to his podcast with Nick Wright on the flight here on Friday, and he goes like, every sport needs to have some combination of stars and urgency. And that's what makes the NFL so great is you have stars and you have urgency.
Yep.
Whereas you go to the NBA and it lacks the urgency, but it has the stars. And so the next step for the NBA is adding urgency. The only way to do that was to shorten the regular season, not add another
not
thing
make it
that
longer.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And so the direction that they're going doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Again, like if you're making $52 million in a year, what's a $500,000 payout to win a midseason tournament? Like I really, again, as is always the case, we need to reserve a certain amount of judgment until we actually see it in practice.
Of course.
Maybe it'll all be great.
You're better at that than me. Because I'm like, judge, I don't like it, move on.
Well, like in this non-disclosed benefit, maybe they're not disclosing it for a reason. Maybe it is something that the players are going to be, interested in competing for, and we'll see in the long run. But to me, it just seems like activity without any sort of productivity, which is to me not a good sign.
I think waste of time, waste of energy because they need it, and like I said, the teams themselves start prioritizing energy and who's going to play and who's not, trying to kind of preserve these athletes. And I just don't think adding more games is going to make that issue any better.
Nope.
So
100% agree. All right, guys, that is all we have for today. We are going to be back tomorrow evening breaking down a jam-packed Sunday slate at Summer League. I will see you guys then.